BBC Radio Gloucestershire.
So we've been talking about how to get to sleep, and more to the point, how to stay asleep or get back to sleep when you wake up. If you're on shifts or different patterns, or you're just getting older and for whatever reason your brain is just busy. Completely understand where you're coming from. I had one of those nights last night, 3.5 hours sleep, and I'm ready for bed perfectly now, of course. The minute the alarm goes off, you could sleep for England. It's CBeebies who have just put up an hour-long film that is, the whole idea is that it's called Daydreams, and it's, the children can watch it in that sort of hour before bed, and it's slow motion footage and very gently spoken by actress Olivia Colman, and there's swimming dolphins and slowly blossoming flowers and things, and the parents are absolutely loving it. It's gone mad on CBeebies as the children sort of unwind and fall asleep, and the mum and dad's go, yes, yes. So what is it? Have we always had this issue about trying to sleep, or is it really sort of a more modern thing? Dipti Tait is a clinical hypnotherapist and sleep expert from the Cotswold practice. Hello, good morning to you, Dipti.
Good morning, Anna.
Have you ever had trouble sleeping? Come on, be honest.
I actually haven't, and that's why I call myself a sleep expert. And I'm going to tell you a really interesting thing here. I actually take a cup of coffee to bed with me.
No.
I drink it, and then I put my head on the pillow, and I'm asleep within 2 or 3 minutes.
And that's drinking coffee at bedtime. So that's breaking every rule known to man.
It's breaking every rule, exactly. But it's because I know how to do it. You know, I've trained my brain. My poor partner's in the middle of a conversation. He won't even have got to the end of the sentence, and I've gone.
But can you understand, having never had that issue yourself, can you understand it can get really bad for some people. It can be quite miserable, you know, if you know that when you put your head down, you might drift off to sleep, but you're not going to be asleep for that long, and then you're going to have hours awake.
Yeah, no, it's a completely irritating, concept. And a lot of my clients are sleep deprived, but they're not at the end, obviously, because I train them on how to sleep properly. But they come in with that sheer frustration of, not being able to sleep and not being able to sleep, not just for a few days, but for a few weeks and sometimes months and even years.
Yes.
I have my head in my hands, and I think, how can you let yourself got to this,
Well, okay, well, we obviously don't choose that, and so we feel like maybe we're slow to get help, but we definitely don't choose the situation, I would suggest. So when you say train yourself, what kind of things do we do wrong, or how do we start the retraining them?
Okay, so it was interesting when you were talking to Jenny, actually, because obviously she'd trained her body to stay awake at night, but to fall asleep in the day, because that's what she had to do for her work. And then now she's retired, her brain has still stuck with that pattern, and it's still that kind of habit that's inside her system. So really what she needs to do, it's kind of like reacclimatizing back to a different, kind of system, really. So she's got to sort of reverse it again. And what she's having to do is get her brain nicely bored. That's the knitting for you. That's the repetitive action.
Or saying fish pie over and over again, like
Jane. Exactly. You have to get your brain bored. enough to not be stimulated. Because if you think about the way we think, if we're in a thought loop that stimulates us, and we're like, oh yeah, I must remember this tomorrow, or oh dear, I didn't do that today, then you're going on this kind of tangent of kind of a thought journey that's stimulating you. So you've got to get your brain into a nicely bored state.
Okay.
So
I've written that down.
Anything repetitive,
yes.
Using your imagination, decorating the room, as somebody said.
Yes.
It's using your imagination in a positive way. So decorating the room isn't offensive to the thinking, it's just kind of like, oh, I could do this and I could do that. And then eventually you're kind of lulling yourself into a nicely bored state again. And then you're going to drift off in a nice way. But positive thinking or positive visualizations are really useful as well.
Now, this thing about if you can sleep, a lot of people can get to sleep initially, but then they wake up. I don't know if it's for a lot of people it's a certain time of night, or maybe it's a noise, or they're too hot or too cold or whatever. But I think a lot of people, it seems to be, oh look, there it is, 4 o'clock again, and it's trying to get back why they wake up then and how to get that off the agenda of your mind. Is there what would you do in that circumstance then?
Well, we always say within solution-focused hypnotherapy that when you're waking up frequently in the night time, it means that you've got an overfull up stress bucket, and that's our terminology. That's what we use. A lot of people will come to us and say, we're not stressed, we just can't sleep. But actually, internally, there is stress in the system, what we really need to do is get into the REM state of sleep. REM stands for rapid eye movement.
This is the very deep one, is that right?
Well, REM is the sort of in between half asleep and half awake. It's that kind of dream-like state, daydream, and that's where the CBeebies thing comes in.
Daydream.
Because it's called daydream, and it's because it wants to put you into REM. And when you're in REM, you're dreaming, but also in that half awake, half asleep, drifty, floaty state.
It's a nice state if you can get into it. It's lovely, isn't it?
Yes, and that's what hypnosis is all about. It puts you into that state. That's the same level of state of brain state activity as trance. So when people say, you can't get me into a trance, trance isn't a really strange state. It's a state that we've all gone into in our sleep system, and that's what hypnosis relies on, the ability to put somebody into a good level of trance, you see.
So I'm thinking, what about like sleeping with your other half, which is lovely, except that if you're on different shifts, or one snores and one doesn't, or one likes it hot, one likes it cold, it's not actually as a joyous experience as necessarily for everybody as you might like it to be.
But if you are actually in your sleep system effectively and properly, if you stayed up at light sleep, then anything other than anything external will wake you up. You'll be kind of on that surface level of sleep.
Yes, so you've got to get past that then, haven't you?
You've got to get past that. You've got to go down into REM and then down into deep, and then down into, dead to the world sort of thing. And it's, like a storm could happen and you wouldn't wake up, and then you kind of drift back up again. And it's a sleep cycle that goes in a wave.
And the interesting thing is that I would have believed that I was like that as a sort of early 20s. I mean, I slept through a fire alarm at college. It's hard to believe now. And I had to get my friend to say, please, could somebody wake me up if there's a fire alarm? Because I slept straight through it, which is bonkers now, because I think, somebody sniffs when I wake up now. I wonder if it's partly because once you have children, they say you don't ever sleep well again. I mean, is there something that we're on as a little trigger, we're thinking, okay, is everything okay? Do they need anything? Is there something, would there be any logic to that? Or as we get older, we don't need so much sleep? Do you agree with any of those things?
Well, I have children, and they're teenagers now, and I trained myself to also sleep when I needed to sleep and wake up when they needed me. So again, I think this is my opinion, but I think that's a belief system that gets coded into us, that's been passed down, So if you don't believe that as a belief, and you think, no, I can train myself, and it is just habit. Training is, as you know, with anything, training, you just repeat it over and over again. And as you know, we can create bad habits through repetition, but also we can create good ones. So
it's never too late.
No, it's never too late.
How long does it take then, Dipti? If we came to you, or we were trying to do this at home, and we started off from a hopeless insomniac, how long would it take us to get retraining that brain, do you reckon?
Well, it depends on how bad your insomnia is, but I would say within 6 weeks, somebody would get their sleeping back in order properly. They can also, like somebody said about the sleep hypnosis on YouTube.
Yes.
Those are really effective, and I've got one. It's an hour, and you can listen to me talking you down into a sleep sort of system. And then I've also got a CD. That's how old-fashioned I am. I've also got an MP3 called Sleep Deeply, and that if you use those resources, quite quickly your brain will get retrained into a better sleeping pattern and habit.
Wow, Dipti, I like that positive attitude. It works for Dipti, and she says, it could work for you too. Dipti Tait, the clinical hypnotherapist and sleep expert from the Cotswold practice. Did you manage to retrain your brain?